Here we are in the EDF Energy London Eye, looking out across the English capital where somewhere in the distance lies Wembley Stadium, venue for this year's Champions League final. Now last time the big game was played here, Barcelona absolutely stormed it and they're many people's favourites to be back here come May. However, this year Barca are looking beatable as rarely before. Celtic have done it, Milan have done it. Can, in their quarter-final matchup, Paris Saint-Germain do it? Certainly it looks like the biggest test yet of the Parisians' new potential. Well, Paul, even though Paris Saint-Germain have David Beckham, Barcelona seem to be the big favourites for this one.
Yeah, I think teams have proven though that Barcelona are very much beatable. Real Madrid knocked them out of the cup, of course, and beat them in the league. And I think that despite that, Barcelona have got over that recent slump as proven in their fabulous performance against Milan in the last round. And I think despite that February slump that they've suffered, I think they're very much favourites in the tournament this year.
Well, I mentioned the defeats to Celtic and to Milan this season, and the question of how to beat Barcelona is one that's come up on Facebook and Twitter, Emily.
Hi James, yeah, we've been getting our readers' thoughts on the draw with the hashtag AskGoal and questions on Facebook. Connor on Twitter thinks it's going to be interesting to see how Messi fares against who he believes to be the world's best defender, Thiago Silva. And then we've got another tweet from Rami Raji, who wants to know how you guys think PSG can beat Barca over 2 legs. Well, Carlo, that's the question. How'd you do it?
Well, first of all, PSG need to stay very compact and they need to deny Barcelona space to play. If you watch Milan in the first leg of the last round, there was actually no more than 30 yards separated between the defence and the attack for the entire match. PSG will need to slow down the game, you know, even if it means in the first leg not watering the grass, you know, not cutting the grass. Milan did that and it seems to get under the skin of Barcelona. And, you know, PSG will have to take their chances. I mean, if you look at Milan again, if Niang scores that one-on-one chance at 1-0, Milan are probably going to end up going through. So, you know, there's a lot of things that just need to fall into place. And, of course, you need a little bit of luck as well.
Now, you've seen PSG a lot this season. Talk about staying compact. Do you think they have the men to do that?
I think they have the men to stay compact, but I think it'll be very difficult for them to go through. I think they're very one-paced. They lack width. Everything's through the middle. They're very reliant on 2 players, Verratti in midfield and Ibrahimovic obviously up front. I just think they're a little bit predictable, sometimes a little bit pedestrian, and with Barcelona, you know, their fitness, they've got their fitness levels back and they're almost superhuman pressing. I mean, I would love to know what they do in training. I mean, it's just incredible, and I think they might just have a little bit too much pace for PSG.
Interestingly, Thiago Silva described there as the greatest defender in the world. He's a man with a lot to prove against this, a club he was perhaps unjustly sent off against in the Champions League.
He is indeed, and I think not only Silva but the entire back four will have to perform to the absolute top of their ability over both legs if they're going to progress. But I think you can't isolate Messi versus Thiago Silva as a singular battle. I think, as Carlo touched on, the space between midfield and defence where Messi does so much of his good work, linking with Iniesta and Villa, is what Milan and indeed Celtic did in the group stages. They compacted in that space and isolated Messi, and it means that he gets frustrated and he drops wide to try and find the ball. And when Messi gets frustrated, that's when he drifts out of games and he disappears, and that's what PSG need to do if they're going to try and progress in this tie.
Interesting. He's not the only man with a point to prove against Barcelona. Ibrahimovic, of course, who had a fairly unhappy season there a few years back.
Yes, he's got a point to prove against Barcelona, but also to the Champions League in general. I think a lot of people still believe that for Ibra to be regarded in the same class as Messi and Ronaldo, he needs to collect a winner's medal in this tournament. And I think the reason that he went to PSG is that he looks at the project and he sees this as his final chance to win the trophy. So by all means he's got a vendetta against Barcelona, you might say, but he also has covets this Champions League title, and I think he thinks he could win it at PSG. There's
a whole load of big names at PSG these days, and it's this kind of match that they've spent all the money for. When you look at some of the talent there, Ibrahimovic, Verratti, Lucas Moura, Pastore as well, Jeremy Menez, but it does still resemble a collection of individuals as opposed to the teamwork of Barcelona, though.
Absolutely. I mean, it's still a work in progress. I think we'll probably need to give PSG another year or maybe 2 before we really see the best of them. But one thing that PSG do possess is they do possess a lot of individual natural talent. You mentioned a few of them there, but even the likes of Javier Pastore, Jeremy Menez, on their day, if Barcelona have an off day, that they can, you know, produce moments of magic, and so there's enough talent there to make a good tie of this. But I still think you have to tip Barcelona.
All right, PSG's biggest game for ages. How big a role, what role will David Beckham play in this?
I think it would be very dangerous for Beckham to play the whole 90 minutes in one of the legs against Barca. And he did play the full game against Saint-Germain in the French league, and he started very well in that match, but he faded towards the end. And it's going to be a big step up playing against Barcelona with their intense pressing. I think you can't play Beckham and Verratti in the same team, and if you're going to choose between Verratti and Beckham, you have to pick Verratti.
All right, well, that's down to the big question then. Have PSG's owners bought themselves a team that can beat Barca?
I think they're building towards one, but I don't think this is a finished article. And I think Barcelona have, as I said earlier, have got over their February slump, and I think they must be considered not only favourites for the tie, but for the competition.
Right. Do you go along with that, Carlo?
I would go along with that. Barcelona are back to full fitness. I think PSG are a little bit too one-paced to really trouble Barcelona.
All right. Well, you can get all the latest on this game and all the rest of the Champions League action at goal.com. And don't forget, if you've got any questions about the tournament, just use the hashtag AskGoal.